Thank you very much, gentlemen. Immortals picking up the first win of the day here against Cloud9. What a crazy game, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that one was very close, back and forth. We saw it multiple times, the lead kind of shifting and changing. Cloud9 having control of the Dragons, but Immortals still keeping that gold lead throughout the game. And on top of all that, before we got into the game, we saw a number of champion select, intricacies that we hadn't seen prior. In the Olaf making a reappearance for Reignover, as that's one of his favorite champions, as well as the Ashe coming in for Engage, and then the likes of the Gragas top lane against the Echo. So first, what do you make of the champion select that we saw come out of Cloud9 and Immortals here?
I think for Immortals, it seemed more standard for them because it's a Reignover thing where he picks Olaf. It's one of the strongest early game junglers, and you just turn it into a tank and run past everything, run past the Bard ult. I think you can run past the Zero ult too if you
get it before.
Yeah. And just crazy.
Yeah, I think it was a little interesting. I think like the Rek'Sai Gragas right away, it's like not much of a surprise factor. You figured out where like normally you might be able to like flex some of those. I understand first picking the Rek'Sai, keep it off of Reignover, which is also one of his best champs, but
Right.
I think it might have been the case where C9 was playing a little bit around C9 or Immortals too much as opposed to their own game.
All right, well, and then, of course, as we saw the game kind of play out, we saw a pretty early double TP into the bot lane by Immortals, picking up a 4-for-0 plus the turret. And we had some questions around the TP picked up on LeBlanc, and here it pays dividends as opposed to an Ignite in the mid lane.
Yeah, I think this is one of those situations where you see, Pobelter not performing that well in mid lane during the laning phase, but as soon as it's over, he's able to make a huge play in this bot lane. They pick everyone up, and they're able to take this turret. And he actually played the fight really well by splitting his target. While his team cleaned up one kill, he made sure the next couple were secured as well.
Yeah, so plenty of gold influx here. Dyrus, you got something?
The bottom line here was that the synergy of both the TPs were so well, you just don't expect it. So all of a sudden, whoa, 5 people bot. Jensen's still middle, like pushing the wave and walking down. It's like by the time he gets down there, the fight is already over. So I was like, oh man, I wasn't prepared for this,
Right, yeah, Azir not being able to keep up with that move there with the double TP, but a huge influx of gold there for Immortals. That was what was kind of keeping them in it against the likes of 4 dragons picked up for Cloud9 throughout the series. Infernal to start things off, follow that up with 2 Cloud Drakes. A lot of us were, we're sitting here saying this seems pretty, they're sitting pretty, as they move through. Of course, now we're going to welcome our Echo Fox and P1 viewers as they come in. We're talking right to the
wave, like, hello.
Hello, guys. As we're talking about Immortals' first victory over Cloud9 on the initial victory of the day. Continuing to work through it, Cloud9 with those 4 dragons, as well as very quickly into the series, pretty well looked like might be a game-breaking moment. Jensen picking up a quadra kill 23 minutes into the game. That's when you say all the gold just went onto the right person if I'm Cloud9.
Yeah, I think this is one of the defining moments in the game. It was a very early Baron call. They had really only killed the Caitlyn, and they're not that tanky. And C9 is able to collapse on this Baron attempt, and Jensen plays this fight just immaculately. Everyone else is always the focus until right about now, and he's still able to clean up all the kills, push LeBlanc off him. He just played this fight super well.
And when all the gold goes onto Azir, one of your main damage carries after Sneaky, it's just really, really good as long as you don't get caught and as long as you don't get screwed over by the tank line.
But
right,
he got caught.
But he got caught. I mean, it's a good. I mean, it's a valid point to bring up, right? Which is because again, you would look at that and you'd say, if Cloud9 at this point plays it out properly, they should pretty much walk away with this game. They've got the gold on the right person in that Azir. Caitlyn is still powering up, sure, but if we can get our tank line and Gragas and Rek'Sai out in front of them, we should be able to kind of push through and take the objectives one by one. Immortals, though, finding their windows of opportunity to get those Ashe ults out and kind of capitalize on small picks here and there and snowball the game to victory from that.
That was pretty much the story of the game after the double TPs. After they finished pushing bottom, C9 was already in position in the enemy jungle where Turtle got caught, and then they kind of took turns where Sneaky got caught, Turtle got caught. Like, the tanks and the people who are catching are, like, not giving up any space, and it's just back and forth, and if you skip steps, you're going to get caught.
One of the things that Dyrus and I were talking about was the Echo build. He went AP, and so, like, our thoughts were that, like, if he just went tank, those team fights would have been a lot easier, because half the time it was Reignover, like, solo diving, and if he just had one buddy, he could have got a kill or 2.
Right.
But then it still doesn't matter because Huni comes in at the end of the fight and cleans a couple people up. So it was this kind of like weird I think we both preferred Tank for the team comp, but he played it well and, got a lot of kills for his team.
Yeah, that brings us to about that 40-minute mark in the game where Immortals picks up an ace plus the base to close it out. So as we watch it play out here on this screen, we will see kind of the overwhelming amount of damage that comes out of the Immortals team comp, given the fact that they do have that full AP Echo.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. You just see the Olaf go flying in to finish off the Gragas there, and he's still just going in nonstop. And this is a time where once the front line is down and on the retreat, there's really not much you can do to stop that Olaf. He's just going to be a freight train running right at the rest of the team.
And one of the benefits of AP Echo right here, you just see Sneaky get one shot from 80% HP. It's pretty crazy for late game.
Yeah, it was one of those moments where you're looking at Jensen Sneaky and just saying, ah, man, I feel so bad. They didn't even have a single moment to kind of turn and unleash the damage potential that they have, from their two champions. But well played by Immortals picking that up. That is going to, of course, take us to our player of the game. That's going to be awarded to Wild Turtle in this series. Again, Wild Turtle, and we've spoken about him throughout the previous split, really stepping up within this Immortals roster, operating smoothly behind those frontliners that he has and putting out consistent damage for his team throughout the split.
Yeah, I think a lot of those fights all started with, pretty critical Ashe arrows. He wasn't, airballing too many of them. So the team fights would have gone a lot worse if he just kept missing them and they had to try and pick it up from there.
So that'll conclude our coverage here of the Immortals and C9 first game of the series. We're going to kind of swap gears now over to Echo Fox and Phoenix One, where Echo Fox picked up their first win after, again, another decently long, decently back and forth game. Initially when we were looking at it, the lane swap comes through at the very beginning of the game. Echo Fox coming out ahead of that, 2 turrets to 1. There were some immediate reservations around Phoenix and their inexperience having given up an extra turret in that lane swap, not being able to keep pace necessarily, but they made a number of good moves throughout the mid game to kind of keep themselves within striking distance of Fox.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the areas where the best of 3 really shows its strengths. I think Phoenix One actually played pretty well, given how bad of a situation they put themselves in, off just a small brain fart by not finishing that turret off. So I think that's where you get to see, hopefully in game 2, they get to show that if they're on equal footing, they're going to outperform them.
Yeah, it's just one of those beginner or rookie mistakes that could be really big, but since the game was so drawn out, it didn't really matter too much.
Yeah, we did see a tremendous amount of dragon control from the side of Echo Fox. Again, kind of gifted that first dragon because of that lane swap stuff, but we saw 20 minutes into the game, still a lot of focus around this dragon area. Ultimately, 4 dragons going to go in the way of Echo Fox, and 1 or 3 of which being the Infernal Drake. So a lot of damage coming out of it from this composition. Yeah, and so up until now, even though Phoenix One was down dragons, they were actually up gold, and this was the first time that they really tried to make a move on the dragon. But because Echo Fox was already so far ahead with that dragons and the speed of their comp, they just charged in there and finished them off.
On top of that, it wasn't only just being ahead in gold, but positioning. There you could see Froggen coming in from the top, and P1 just wasn't grouped in time. And let's talk about Froggen briefly, just because we did finally have an opportunity here in NA to see that Swain get played, and even through the lane phase, being a bit of a bully. Massive CS, and then we saw multiple times just basically 1v5ing the team, at least for a period of time, when he would get caught out until his team shows up to save the day. It's just one of those team comps where you have Maokai, Swain, Sivir, there's just so much tankiness between Maokai and Swain that either one of them could get caught and the fight will still go well for them because they just run at you, they have CC, and they do a ton of damage. So it's what am I doing against this comp? I can't kill them, and they're just really fast. Yeah, I mean, you catch someone out of position, it doesn't matter. Sivir's going to get the rest of the team there in 5 seconds. So with those people in the side lanes being so tanky, they're not going to die during that time. Well, so it'll come as no surprise then that our player of the game for our second series here is going to be Keith in that ADC position. Again, as that ADC, that Sivir, kind of being that crucial utilitarian of the team, right? Supplying that speed as well as the consistent damage to be behind those 2 frontliners in Swain and Maokai. Really just throwing it out there. 4-0-4 on Sivir, as you can see on your screen there. Oddly enough, the AD carries being more of the utility for the team while the tanks do all the damage. It's really nice to see them get the MVP. Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of MVP honors coming their way as they do what they need to do to get their teams their first victories of the series. We've already had 2 crazy games today, but we're just getting started with our best of 3 format. Stay tuned for more action-packed games right after the break.